second half of the NFL season is here, and those young QBs are putting on a show. But who's the best team? This is when we separate the pretenders from the contenders. And you can follow that story every Sunday with the NFL on CBS.
All right, let's start with some playoff scenarios. Let's go with the easy ones first. Let's start with the Kansas City Chiefs. They win an ugly game, just like the last few have been for them. But essentially, they've locked up home field advantage. They've locked up the first round bye and the first seed in the playoffs. They play against the Chargers, but most likely we see them resting some players. So congrats to the Chiefs for winning the only bye week. Okay, the next two teams in the AFC are the Bills and the Steelers. So the Bills clinched their division. They obviously clinched a playoff berth, but now they're in the driver's seat to land the number 2 seed in the conference. But to do that, they're going to have to win, or they're going to need a Steelers loss. So both teams are right there controlling their own destiny if they win, but I believe the Bills will have the tiebreaker. Worst part for the Bills is they're playing the Dolphins, who need to win to still try and get in the playoffs. We'll discuss the Dolphins later. For the Steelers, 12-3, headed into this last game, they finally changed their losing ways. They lost 3 straight, won their most recent matchup in a comeback win from 3 touchdown deficit against the Colts and Phillip Rivers. They clinched the AFC North, and them and the Bills are essentially fighting for that second playoff spot to try and get a home game for the first round of the playoffs. But they're going to need to win against the Browns, who are fighting for a playoff berth themselves. The Titans failed on their opportunity to clinch the AFC South, but they're going to have some opportunities to rectify that in Week 17 and get into the postseason dance. The Titans can clinch the playoffs if they just win against the Texans, or if any of these 3 teams loses. The Ravens, the Colts, or the Dolphins. That means the Titans are in. For Miami, they're 10-5. They pulled off one of the most dramatic victories of the season on Saturday night. So now they're in the top 7 still after beating the Raiders. Ryan Fitzpatrick's comeback could potentially push these guys in the playoffs. So they can't clinch it in Week 16, but a victory in Week 17 over the Bills would do it. Now, you got to understand they're playing the Bills, but the Bills, they're not resting their starters because there's only one team that gets a bye, and that's already the Chiefs. And so this is going to be a tough task at Buffalo in early January. Not ideal for the Dolphins, but who knows? For the Baltimore Ravens, they're on a hot streak now. They went through their COVID issues, potentially their bathroom issues with Lamar Jackson, whatever that was. Who cares what it was, because they're playing so well right now. Des Bryant's playing well right now. This team's on fire, and nobody wants to mess with them in the playoffs. So to clinch a postseason spot, all they got to do is win at Cincinnati this week, which isn't that tall of a task. They would also get in, of course, if the Browns or Colts lose. So they have plenty of options, and nobody really wants to play the Ravens right now. The Cleveland Browns. Wow. Talk about awful timing for COVID-19 protocols. Their entire receiving core was just decimated. The Browns lose to the 1-win Jets, and now their playoff chances are awfully slim. The craziest scenario for the Browns to get in, other than just beating the Colts, is they need this combination. They need the Titans to lose. They also need the Ravens, Colts, and Dolphins all to win. Gosh, win and get in, or else it's going to get confusing. For the NFC, the number 1 seed, Green Bay Packers right now. Packers clinched a spot in the playoffs, clinched their division, and had a huge victory against the Tennessee Titans last week. But because the Saints and Seahawks both won, they couldn't clinch the number 1 spot. So what they need to do is beat the Bears this week, and they are the number 1 seed outright. But the Seahawks would have the tiebreaker between the teams if both finish 12-4. Unfortunately, I see the Bears winning streak, although Mitchell Trubisky's playing really well. I see that coming to an end. The New Orleans Saints right now at number 2. They're in the playoffs. They won their division, the NFC South. But what they're trying to do is give Drew Brees a week off, get their team healthy, and get that first round bye. The only chance they have to jump the Packers and make that happen is they got to beat the Panthers on Sunday, which I think happens. But they also need the Packers to lose to the Bears. That one I don't see happening this weekend. The Seattle Seahawks, one of the 3 top teams in the NFC. For the Seahawks to secure the number 1 seed, they're going to need a little help. They're going to need the Packers to lose to the Bears. They're going to need the Saints to lose to the Panthers, and most importantly, they got to beat the 49ers. I like them over the 49ers this final game, but I don't know if both of those things happen. I don't think the Panthers can beat the Saints, and I don't think the Bears can beat the Packers. So it looks like Seattle's coming in at 2 or 3. All right, now to the NFC East. The best chance of these teams to get to the playoffs is the Washington football team. Right now, they're 4th. So they can just win the division and host a playoff game with the worst record, as long as they beat the Eagles this weekend. If they don't, the Eagles are still out of it, but the winner of the Giants and Cowboys game will clinch the division. This is crazy that one of these teams is going to host the playoff game. I think I'd like to see the Eagles beat Washington, and I think I see it happening. For some reason, Jalen Hurts throws a miraculous ball at the end of the game, wins the game. The Eagles win their final contest. Everybody's happy in Philly for a little while, and then maybe the Cowboys or the Giants sneak in the playoffs and host the game. Nothing would cap off 2020 in a better fashion. The Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Wow, Tom Brady clinching another playoff berth for his new team, the first time in a while. But all they got to do is beat the Falcons, and they secure the 5th seed in the NFC playoffs. But, you know, the most important thing for them is playing that game of, okay, do we want to rest anybody? Are we okay with the 6th seed or potentially the 7th seed? And how do we want to handle this? So I see them coming out, firing on all cylinders and seeing how it goes for a half, and then making some decisions at halftime as to how they want to finish this game, get out of it healthy, or if they secured a big lead, potentially putting in some other players. This is an interesting matchup because the Los Angeles Rams have a wild path to the playoff. They play the Cardinals this weekend. They win, they're in, bottom line. That's most important. They can control their own destiny. But if the Packers win and the Rams lose, it's okay. They still make the playoffs. So the biggest issue is both of these games are on at the same time. They can't watch and see what happens and then decide to sit their players. They got to go in this thing like gangbusters, trying to control their own destiny. So I assume that's what they're going to do, and I think they handle the Cardinals. Kyler Murray hasn't showed that he's his best these last couple of weeks. He looks a little nicked up. The shoulder's still bothering him, and he's doing a little chuck and duck right now. So he's trying to save himself a little bit from some of these big hits, and I see the Rams taking advantage of that and having a better game on offense, although they are playing a backup quarterback. So now on the flip side, the Bears, they got to beat the Packers to clinch a spot in the playoffs, but they also need the Cardinals to lose so they don't have the same record as the Cardinals. Whew, this is getting messy. But I think the Packers win, handle business, and I also think the Rams win, handle their business.